Hi, welcome. It's Iona here at Wren House Studio, and we are walking around the natural circadian calendar of a creative year. And we do that by moving moon by moon through 12 moons every year. Each moon has its own keyword, and we begin each natural creative year in the east with the energy of clarity in the springtime. And clarity leads us to wisdom, and wisdom leads us to our own brilliance. And that makes up the spring quadrant of the natural circadian year. When we get to summer, we get to the south gate. The south gate opens, and the three pathways that take us back, all the pathways, take us back home to where we live, to our own heart, to our own neuroplasticity that allows us to grow and morph and be more and give it a go and not give up, be unstoppable. And so when we get to the south gate, it opens with the idea of July we grow, and in August we learn to trust, and as we come into September each year, we'll have the opportunity to put our, what I like to say is put our fingers on the pulse point of what it means to love. And this is a very difficult concept, that of love. So we're going to have 8 sessions here, these very brief sessions. Twice a week we come in and we look at the idea of, for this moon month, what does it mean? What does love mean? And how do we balance the tension between love over here and purity over there? That's the duality, the polarity on the natural circadian calendar, is balancing love with purity. And that sounds kind of, I don't know, it doesn't sound warm and fuzzy to me, but I think that where we want to begin, and I feel where it is useful for us to start to consider a month focused on love for 15 minutes a day. Just look at love for 15 minutes a day. And so if we begin today by looking at the idea that it's such a repeated, almost a cliche, but the idea is that we can't love anything or anyone else until we learn how to love ourselves. So we're going to look a lot at what that means and how that functions, and naturally nobody can know for you what that means for you. It would be really ridiculous for me to imagine that I know what it means for anybody else to discover the energy of love in their own life, particularly as it plays through them as a creative energy. But that's what these keywords represent, is our relationship with these 12 different ways of being creative, moon month by moon month throughout the year. They aren't something that we believe in. They're tools like hammers and nails. And if we use the love energy as a tool throughout this moon month, at the end of the moon month, we're going to be somewhere that we can't predict. We can't know today. So I'd like to begin our exploration by suggesting that we open to 15 minutes of dreaming the dream of what it means to love life, that we are alive, that circumstances and situations came together so that you're here right now, I'm here right now. And there's so many things that want to distract us, and so many ways that we can get confused about what it really means, in this case for this moon month, what it really means to engage in the energy of love. So let's begin by just kind of laying a groundwork. I'm going to go way back into the Wayback Machine to the Upanishads, to pre-Sanskrit, and there is a poem that is, I feel, really a lovely way to begin the exploration of dreaming what it means to love at this time in your life and in my life and in our lives. So here's the poem. Save the self by the self. Never upset the self. The self is the only friend of self, and the self is the only enemy of self. We just begin with that. It's like a koan. It's like a puzzle. It's like, what does that actually mean to me? Save the self by the self. Never upset the self. The self is the only friend of self. The self is the only foe of self. How can I sit with that for 15 minutes a day and just imagine that? Or how maybe I can write that down. Save the self by the self. Never upset the self. The self is the only friend of self. The self is the only enemy or foe of self. It's a capsule. It's a container. It's someplace where we can go as we begin to imagine what's possible as we step into this last of the summer moon months in the Northern Hemisphere and begin to explore like an existential detective. What does it mean to save the self by the self and to never upset the self? So we're going to begin with that, and we're going to go a little deeper and a little further and a little wider each time. So if you'd like to, you could leave a comment about what do you get from save the self by the self, never upset the self. The self is the only friend of self. The self is the only enemy of self. What comes up for you around that? I know for myself, I suppose like every one of us, I kind of have to duke it out with my shadow, with my Mr. Snarky, because of self-judgment and criticism and comparison. All of these we're going to look at as we go further, because we're looking at how we can creatively engage with this lovely circadian calendar, with these 4 compass points, the east, the south, the west, and the north, and how we can circumnavigate this beautiful wheel, always bringing ourselves back to the center, back home, to where we live, to where we belong. But then letting ourselves go out and connect with each of these different points on the wheel in turn, and then getting so fluid that if we want to play with clarity today, we go play with clarity. If we want to learn a little bit more about strength, well, we have enough information now with our awareness of the wheel that we can go and look at our strength. So it's not set, but it's really kind of it's just a tune-up to take it moon by moon and focus for 15 minutes a day on each of the keywords as we come into contact with them. Okay, enough for today. I love that you're here. Thank you so much. I hope you'll like the page. I hope that you'll make a comment if you choose to, share the information if it feels right for you. We're a very, very small group, and that's lovely, lovely, lovely. And this is information that can do nothing but blossom and grow. It will never do us any harm to connect with the creative circadian energies of the natural year, moon by moon. See you next time.